All right, now here on the show, Chris Coots joins us, who works for Opendorse, which is at the forefront of allowing athletes to make money and profit off of their name, image, and likeness. They've been doing it for professional athletes since 2012. Now, obviously, jumping in here at the forefront of what's happening with college athletes. And Chris Coots also has some really good insight into K-State. He used to work here in the sports information department at K-State. So appreciate the time and joining me here, Chris. I'm sure it's a hectic week for you guys, but we're on the precipice of things really changing tomorrow. How would you describe how much things are about to change in college athletics tomorrow?
Yeah, thanks, John, for having me, and obviously good to hear from you. It's the most dramatic change to college athletics in decades. Right, like it's this opportunity for athletes to go out there and monetize their name, image, likeness, something they never were able to do in the current iteration of the NCAA. And so it's just this monumental change. The thing is, it's going to occur in spaces that some people who are listening to the show or who don't, take part in the platforms that the athletes use, they won't see it. They won't know about it directly. But there's lots of deals coming, and there's lots of deals coming beyond tomorrow, which is important to keep in mind. Like, look, July 1's the game day around name, image, likeness. As a company at Opendorse, we've been preparing for it in a variety of ways. But we know there's lots more games to be played after it, so we got to think about long-term, too.
So what do you foresee as being the most common? You mentioned the different ways all of this can happen. What do you see as the most common ways that you're going to see student-athletes start profiting off of their name, image, and likeness?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it with the situation on TikTok today. Social media, whether that's products or brands or services who want to put their product or service in front of the followers of the athlete's social media accounts, right? So if there's 5,000 followers on an athlete account and they have really good engagement, a brand wants to put their product in front of those same followers. So social media activations, it could be a matter of promoting a shirt. It could be a matter of promoting, teeth whitening. It can be a variety of things, but that's where a lot of the conversation's happening. The other examples that are probably easy to see would be camps or clinics, right? Athletes can now do their own camps or clinics. There's obviously a variety of protections they need to set up, LLC, waivers, stuff like that. But that's an opportunity where they can promote their camp, say, hey, come out and I'll teach you the sport. It can be there in Manhattan. It can be somewhere where they're from. That's the idea. The other one that's really simple to understand, right? We all watch YouTube videos and all those ads that play before a video uploaded by someone. That's video monetization, right? So that is a way for an athlete, if they have enough following and enough of a channel on YouTube or whatever platform, Twitch even, they can literally earn money as they speak, right? And so name, image, likeness is not about the field directly. There's certainly a lot of benefit of being good in your sport, but we've seen today with K-State situation that there's some athletes who never even played it down yet. Quite a potential around NIL.
Chris Coots is talking with me here from Opendorse, which is at the forefront of trying to help athletes leverage their name, image, and likeness and monetize it. So the situation with Shane Porter, so he has 964,000 TikTok followers. Now, I had someone, all I did was Google, like, hey, monetization calculation for social media. You punch in the numbers of his account, it pulls it up. And I had one saying, hey, he could make $500 to $900 per post. Mm-hmm. I have honestly no idea what those numbers are based off of. Somebody else was tweeting me saying, no, it's really more like $20. Look, I'm way out over my skis when it comes to that. What is the reality of how much could be monetized there and how much money could Shane Porter be making?
Yeah, I think I saw your tweet, and that's not inaccurate, what you shared. Now, obviously, probably what you plugged in was a general calculator, right? So number of followers. The things that brands care about are the engagement, right? How many people are commenting or sharing that video? And the other thing about TikTok is it's a relatively new platform, not quite, but relatively to the masses. There are lots of brands or companies trying to determine what is the right spin there based on likes or followers on that space. The videos are sometimes hard to find if you don't follow someone. So TikTok's a little bit different. But I just want to call that out. That's what you're probably seeing, some inconsistency. But it doesn't just matter to the million followers on TikTok. The rule of thumb on TikTok, Twitter or Instagram, is about $10 for every 1,000 followers per tweet or per post. So do your math. Now, again, there's other factors that go in: market, brand, and just the market rate that athlete may be commanding. So those are things that inflate that number beyond the 10 per 1,000 followers. Again, that's a very general number. It's probably very similar to the calculator you use. But, it's all about how the brand or company views that athlete and the reach they can provide and the engagement they can provide. Potentially the performance on the field, helping raising their star status to do their own thing around NIL. Lots to learn here as we all move forward in the college space, but we certainly know it a lot from the professional space working at Open Doors.
Chris Coots is talking with me here from Open Doors, which is one of the leaders in helping athletes maximize their name, image, and likeness. So how many, what percentage of athletes are we talking about here? I think people look at this and they say, okay, is it just the star quarterback? Is it just the star running back we're seeing here? It can be a walk-on wide receiver, but what percentage would you estimate of college athletes will have a legitimate opportunity here to actually make some money?
Well, if we're generally speaking, every athlete has an opportunity. But there's 500,000 roughly NCAA college athletes, and a percentage of that, it's not going to be all 500,000 who make lots of money. I don't have a feel on exactly how many people will partake because, we know how many people are jumping on marketplaces, and we see the engagement and education sessions we host about what is NIL. And it's not everyone in the room, but it's probably half to more than half who are interested by this. And so now we determine how many people are going to jump in. We all have to consider the brands or companies who are paying the athletes to do these activations if it's around endorsements. So that market will control how many athletes take part in this whole thing. Don't forget that. But then the other things that some athletes can control, right? Their YouTube channel and camps and clinics and video shout outs, those are things that are a little more direct that they can play an impact. So they can't be factored in to that same money that's being spent around influencer marketing. Keep in mind, influencer marketing from an industry standpoint is an $8 billion company, or $8 billion industry, now. We expect it to be $15 billion in a couple years. I'm talking all of influencer marketing. You don't think college athletes are going to take a nice chunk out of that because they have this really engaged following on a college campus, the same market that every branded company is trying to target and reach directly as soon as they can, fast as they can? I'm not talking $1 billion industry of college athletes, but it's up there.
Do you foresee some of the non-revenue sports being potentially very profitable here too? Athletes that could build up their social followings enough to be pretty profitable?
Absolutely. I genuinely believe, I've said this to you before, John, but I'll say it again today. I believe this is going to fuel the growth of women's sports like we haven't seen in a while. And what I mean by that is basically we're going to learn about these stories of athletes who are playing women's sports at the college level, and you see more brands activating around them because they want to invest their money in this space. And so those quote-unquote non-revenue sports are going to have athletes within it who are beyond the revenue that their games are generating in terms of their activation or potential around NIL. So keep that in mind. A year from now, you and I can have this conversation. I bet you if we pull a top 50 list among student athletes who made money around NIL, right, more than half are going to be female athletes. Probably a lot of them are going to be female athletes. And then I could go, the tracks or the cross countries or, sports that really just don't even have a lot of fans at most events. Those athletes can have this whole following that doesn't even matter to their performance in their events or disciplines, right? That's what we're talking about. Some of this stuff does not quite matter. It definitely helps if you perform well in any sport, but keep in mind some of this goes beyond their sport.
So I've seen, you'll hear people on both sides of the aisle here, and I tend to be kind of just in the middle, anticipating it'll be about the same. But there are folks that I hear from a lot who worry about, okay, with all of this stuff in place, a school like Alabama, Texas, they could have all these boosters, just throw around tons of money, and the rich will get richer because they can do more things with the money that they have available. Whereas I also hear the line of Curry Sexton, former K-State player, joined us and was saying, well, hey, I actually think that this could be an opportunity for an advantage for schools in a market like Manhattan where there's just so much, you mentioned engagement, so many people that are engaged on a high level following in a hyper-local environment, that could actually be a better sell. How do you foresee, and I know it's impossible to totally do this, but how do you foresee that playing out? Do you think it is something that will change the dynamics of the rich and the poor, so to speak, in college athletics?
I don't know if it changes the dynamics because this is off-the-field stuff. The rules that are in place on the level, it's no pay-for-play and no recruiting inducement. Now, of course, every school is going to say our market can provide X. We have the resources to develop you and Y. And so this is that conversation. And what I say with Manhattan and with K-State, obviously a little more versed than the general public, but Manhattan and K-State have a really engaged, passionate fan base. That is the potential for athletes that attend Kansas State. Okay, those people who are already supporting the athletic department or attend the game, they may very well buy a shirt from an athlete at K-State that has their personal brand on it, right? They very well may request a birthday shout out. Here's $25. Wish my son or daughter happy birthday. It's a big one coming this weekend. Enjoyed watching this past week at the game. Like, that's where Manhattan comes in. That's where most smallish, quote unquote, college markets have an advantage here, because you have an engaged base. Like, do you want to be a big fish in a big fish in a small pond, or do you want to be a small fish in a big pond? When it comes to NIL, from what a campus could provide or an athletic department provides, it's a little bit of the former. It's a little bit about being the big fish in a small little piece of water, because lots of eyes are on the people at K-State, and it only translates eventually to the athletes once they have the following to support it.
Man, that's really, I hadn't even thought about that. That's like we're talking Cameo, basically, right? Like, you can do Cameo and just provide shout outs for people.
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee and I encourage it. What's wrong with it, right? If a son or daughter really loves watching that volleyball athlete or that soccer athlete or baseball player, whatever it may be, like, that'd mean the world to that son or daughter to get a birthday message from watching that athlete play on Wednesdays and Saturdays in Bramlage, right? Or a user-friendly park. Like, you have to keep that in mind. So those are opportunities no one's talking about, but they don't change the lives of athletes. But a couple $100 a month through that type of stuff,